Ambassador had visited Earth twice before. He remembered the endless noise of human cities, cars honking, people shouting, music playing from every window, children laughing in parks, dogs barking at nothing. Earth was the loudest planet in the galaxy. That was why the silence hit him like a punch to the chest. His shuttle landed in the middle of New York City. The engines powered down, waited for the usual crowd of human officials to greet him. Nobody came. He opened the door and stepped outside. The street was empty, not a single human in sight. Was a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His people had been trading with humans for 50 years. He knew their customs. He knew their habits. He knew that humans never left their cities empty. "Hello," he called out. His voice echoed between the tall buildings. No answer came back. He walked down the street. Cars sat parked along the sidewalks. Some had their doors open. Coffee cups sat on outdoor tables, still half full. A newspaper lay on a bench, open to the middle page. Everything looked like people had been here just minutes ago, but there were no people. Felt his heart beat faster. He pulled out his communication device and called his ship in orbit. "Captain, something is wrong. I need you to scan the city." "Scanning now, Ambassador." There was a long pause. "Sir, I am not detecting any human life signs in the city." "Expand the scan. Check the whole region." Another pause, longer this time. "Ambassador, I have scanned the entire eastern coast of this continent. There are no humans, none at all." Stopped walking. He stood in the middle of Times Square, surrounded by giant screens that still played advertisements. A woman smiled down at him, selling perfume. A man held up a phone, promising the best camera ever, but the streets below were empty. "Scan the whole planet," said. His voice was barely a whisper. The wait felt like forever. Looked around at the empty city. He saw pigeons sitting on rooftops, rats running through alleys, dogs wandering alone, looking confused. The animals were still here. Only the humans were gone. "Ambassador," Captain sounded scared now. "I have completed a full planetary scan. Earth has a population of 0 humans. 8 billion people are gone." Sat down on a bench. His legs could not hold him anymore. 8 billion humans, gone, in what seemed like a single moment. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no evidence of attack, just empty cities and silent streets. He spent the next 6 hours searching. He walked through apartments where dinner still sat on tables. He found offices where computers still showed half-written emails. He entered a hospital where machines still beeped, monitoring beds that held no patients. Everywhere he went, the story was the same. Humans had been living their normal lives. Then they simply vanished. In a small apartment in Brooklyn, found something that broke his heart. A child's room, toys scattered on the floor, a small bed with cartoon sheets. On the pillow sat a stuffed bear, waiting for a child who would never return. Picked up the bear and held it gently. His 4 hands trembled. He returned to his shuttle as the sun began to set. The city lights turned on automatically, illuminating streets that no one would walk. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Captain, open a channel to the Galactic Council. Priority 1, emergency status." "Channel open, Ambassador." Took a deep breath. In his 50 years of service, he had never made an emergency report. He had never needed to, but now he had to tell the galaxy something impossible. "This is Ambassador of the Diplomatic Corps. I am reporting from Earth, the human. I have confirmed that the entire human population has disappeared. 8 billion sentient beings are gone without explanation. There are no signs of attack, no signs of disease, no signs of evacuation. The humans simply vanished. I request immediate investigation teams from all member species. This is not a drill. This is not an error. Earth is empty." He ended the transmission and sat in silence. Outside his window, a dog howled somewhere in the distance. It was the loneliest sound had ever heard. The response from the Galactic Council came within the hour. Ships from 12 different species changed course toward Earth. Scientists prepared their equipment. Military commanders reviewed their defense plans. Everyone had the same question. What could make 8 billion humans disappear? Some thought it was a weapon, a new kind of bomb that could erase organic life. Others thought it was a disease, a plague so fast that people died before they could call for help. A few suggested that humans had done this to themselves, some kind of mass suicide or religious event. But none of these theories explained the most troubling fact. There were no bodies, no ashes, no bones. The humans had not died on Earth. They had simply stopped being there. Stayed on the planet as the investigation teams arrived. He watched scientists scan empty homes. He watched soldiers search abandoned military bases. He watched diplomats argue about what to do next. Nobody found any answers. 3 days passed. The investigation continued but made no progress. Began to think they would never know what happened. He began to accept that Earth would remain a mystery forever. Then, on the morning of the 4th day, everything changed. Was eating breakfast in his shuttle when his communication device screamed with alarms. He grabbed it and saw a message from Captain. The captain's face was pale with fear. "Ambassador, you need to see this. Something is happening on the planet's surface." "What kind of something?" "I do not know how to describe it, sir. Just look outside." Walked to his shuttle door and opened it. What he saw made him drop his breakfast on the ground. The mountains in the distance were opening. Giant doors, hidden for who knew how long, were sliding apart. And from inside those mountains, ships were rising. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands, more ships than had ever seen in one place. He looked toward the ocean. The water was churning, boiling. More ships were rising from beneath the waves. They broke through the surface and climbed into the sky, water falling from their hulls like rain. All across Earth the same thing was happening. Hidden bases were opening. Secret hangars were revealing their contents. Ships of every size were taking flight. Small fighters, medium cruisers, massive carriers. They filled the sky until could barely see the sun. His communication device buzzed. It was a message from his captain. "Ambassador, we have counted the ships. There are approximately 500,000 vessels launching from Earth." Watched the fleet rise, 500,000 ships, a fleet larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen, built in secret, hidden from everyone. The humans had not vanished, they had been preparing. Commander stood on the bridge of the carrier Eternal Dawn. Through the massive windows, he could see thousands of ships rising alongside his own. The sight filled him with pride and sadness at the same time. They had prepared for this moment for 200 years. Now it was finally here. "All Eastern Division ships have launched successfully," reported his communications officer, a young woman named. "Western Division reports the same. Southern and Northern Divisions are at 90% launch completion." "What about the underground cities?" asked. "All 8 billion civilians are secure in the deep shelters. Life support systems are functioning normally. They have enough supplies for 50 years." Nodded. The plan had worked perfectly. 3 days ago, every human on Earth had received the signal. They had dropped whatever they were doing and walked calmly to the nearest entrance. Hidden elevators, secret tunnels, doors disguised as ordinary buildings. All of them led to the massive underground cities that humanity had been building since the first warning came. That warning had arrived 200 years ago. A probe sent by their ancestors had detected something at the edge of the galaxy, something massive, something that consumed entire star systems and left nothing behind. The probe had calculated the thing's path and speed. It would reach the Milky Way in exactly 200 years. Humanity had kept the secret. They smiled at alien diplomats. They traded goods and shared technology. They pretended to be a young, harmless species just finding its place in the galaxy. But behind the smiles, they built. They built ships in underground factories. They built weapons in hidden laboratories. They built a fleet larger than anyone could imagine. Now that fleet was ready. Commander, incoming transmission from the Sunrise, looked up from her console. It is your sister. Allowed himself a small smile, put her through. The main screen flickered and showed the face of Commander. She looked exactly like him, which made sense. They were twins. The same sharp eyes, the same determined jaw, the same calm expression that hid a fire burning inside. Brother said, "My division is fully launched, 200,000 ships ready for duty." Same here, 300,000 from my divisions. Total fleet strength confirmed at 500,000. Was quiet for a moment. Did you see the alien ambassador? He was still on the surface when we launched. I saw him. He looked like he was going to faint. Can you blame him? We just revealed the biggest secret in galactic history. Turned and looked out the window again. His fleet stretched across the sky like a blanket of steel. Each ship carried thousands of crew members, men and women who had trained their whole lives for this mission. They had said goodbye to their families. They had accepted that they might never return. They were the best humanity had to offer. "Have we received any response from the Galactic Council?" he asked. Checked her console. "Multiple transmissions incoming, Commander. They are demanding to know what is happening. Some of them sound angry. Most of them sound scared." "Let them wait. We will explain when we are ready." The fleet continued to rise. Ships fell into formation around the eternal dawn. Fighters formed protective screens. Cruisers took positions along the flanks. Carriers like ship moved to the center, their massive hangars holding thousands more fighters ready to launch. It took 6 hours for the entire fleet to reach orbit. 6 hours of precise movements and careful coordination. 500,000 ships moving as one. It was the greatest display of organization the galaxy had ever seen. Spent those hours reviewing the mission plans. He knew them by heart, but he read them again anyway. They would jump to the edge of the galaxy. They would find the thing that was coming. They would stop it or die trying. Simple words for an impossible task. "Commander's voice interrupted his reading. "We are receiving a direct communication from Earth. It is Chairman." Straightened in his chair. Chairman was the leader of the entire operation. He was 140 years old, kept alive by the best medicine humanity had developed. He had been planning this mission since before was born. "Put him through." The screen showed an old man with white hair and tired eyes, but those eyes still held a sharp light, a fierce determination that age could not dim. "Commander," the chairman said, "I wanted to speak to you before you leave." "We are honored, Chairman." "The honor is mine. You and your sister are about to do something no one has ever done. You are going to save the galaxy." Felt the weight of those words. Save the galaxy. It sounded like something from a children's story, but it was real. It was happening now. "We will do our duty," said, "whatever it takes." "I know you will." The chairman leaned forward. "I have one more thing to tell you, something I have never shared with anyone outside the Leadership Council." "What is it, sir?" 200 years ago, when the probe first detected the threat, it also sent us images. Pictures of what this thing does to planets, to species. I have seen those images, Commander. I have studied them for over a century. The chairman paused. His old hands trembled slightly. "The thing does not just kill. It does not just destroy. It erases. Planets are left as empty rocks. No life, no water, no atmosphere. Everything that makes a world alive is taken. Every species it has encountered is gone, completely gone. Not even bones remain." Felt cold despite the warm bridge. "Why are you telling me this, Chairman?" "Because I want you to understand why we kept this secret. If the galaxy knew what was coming, there would have been panic. Wars would have broken out. Species would have fought each other for resources, for safe places to hide. Civilization would have collapsed long before the threat arrived. So we let them live in peace," said slowly. We let them enjoy their last 200 years without fear. Yes, and we prepared alone. We built our fleet alone. We will fight alone. The chairman sat back in his chair. He looked very old in that moment, very tired. The aliens will call us liars, deceivers. They will say we betrayed their trust. Maybe they are right, but we did what we had to do. We gave them 200 years of peace. Now we will give them a chance to keep living. And if we fail, then the galaxy dies, but at least we tried. At least humanity stood between darkness and light. That is something, Commander. That is something worth remembering. The transmission ended, sat in silence, processing what he had heard. Around him, his crew continued their work. They did not know about the images. They did not know how terrible the enemy really was. Maybe that was better. Brother's face appeared on a side screen. The fleet is ready. All ships are in formation. We are waiting for your order. Stood up, he looked at his crew, at the ships visible through the windows, at the planet below where 8 billion humans waited in underground cities, hopping and praying for their fleet to succeed. This is Commander to all ships. Today we begin a journey that our ancestors dreamed of. Today we go to fight an enemy that threatens everything we love. We do not know if we will win. We do not know if we will survive, but we know why we fight. We fight for Earth. We fight for our families. We fight for every species in this galaxy, even those who do not know they need saving. He took a deep breath. Prepare for jump. Destination, the void beyond the galactic edge. May our courage be greater than our fear. The fleet engaged their engines. 500,000 ships turned toward the darkness between galaxies, and then, in a flash of light that could be seen from 100 worlds, they jumped. Humanity was going to war. High Chancellor had ruled the Galactic Council for 300 years. He had seen wars begin and end. He had watched empires rise and fall. He had negotiated peace between species that had hated each other for. Nothing surprised him anymore. Until now. He stared at the report on his screen. 500,000 ships. The words seemed impossible. The entire galactic navy, combining the fleets of all 47 member species, had only 300,000 vessels. The humans had built a fleet nearly twice that size without anyone noticing. This cannot be correct, he said to the room full of ambassadors. Our intelligence services monitor every inhabited planet. How did we miss this? Ambassador stepped forward. He had returned from Earth just hours ago. His blue face was still pale from what he had witnessed. High Chancellor, I was there. I watched the ships launch with my own eyes. They came from everywhere. Mountains, oceans, deserts. The humans built their fleet underground beneath our very feet, and we never suspected a thing. The room erupted in noise. 47 species talking at once. Some shouted in fear. Others demanded answers. A few called for military action against Earth. Chancellor raised his hand for silence. We will have order, he said firmly. Panic will not help us. Panic is exactly what we should feel. Ambassador of the Empire stood up. His red scales gleamed under the council lights. The humans have deceived us for centuries. They pretended to be peaceful traders while building the largest war fleet in history. This is an act of aggression against the entire galaxy. We do not know that, argued. The ships left Earth and jumped away. They did not attack anyone. They did not threaten anyone. Yet, his voice was bitter. They did not threaten anyone yet, but why else would they build such a fleet? Why else would they hide it from us? The arguing continued for hours. Chancellor listened to every opinion. Some species wanted to attack Earth immediately, before the human fleet could return. Others wanted to wait for an explanation. A few suggested that maybe the humans had a good reason for what they did. Finally, a message arrived that changed everything. High Chancellor, a young aide rushed into the chamber. We are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They want to speak with the council. Silence fell over the room, straightened in his chair. Put it through. The main screen flickered. A human face appeared. A young man with calm eyes and a determined expression. Behind him could see the bridge of a massive ship. This is Commander of the Human Defense Fleet. I am speaking on behalf of all humanity. Commander kept his voice steady. You have a great deal to explain. Your species has violated dozens of galactic treaties. You have built weapons of war in secret. You have deceived every member of this council. Yes, we have. The human did not look ashamed. And I am sorry for that, but we had no choice. No choice, shouted from across the room. You could have trusted us. You could have shared whatever threat you claimed to face. Instead, you lied to us for 200 years. Ambassador's voice remained calm. If I had come to this council 200 years ago and told you that something terrible was coming from beyond the galaxy, would you have believed me? Opened his mouth to respond but stopped. He had no answer. If I had shown you the evidence, continued, would you have worked together to face it? Or would you have fought among yourselves? Would you have shared resources or hoarded them? Would you have built a unified defense or attacked each other for advantage? The room was silent. Everyone knew the truth. The Galactic Council could barely agree on trade policies. The idea of them cooperating against an unknown threat was laughable. We made a difficult decision, said. We decided to protect the galaxy ourselves. We gave you 200 years of peace. We let you live your lives without fear. And now we are going to fight so that you can continue living. Fight what? Asked. What is this threat you speak of? Pressed a button. The screen behind him changed to show an image. What saw made his blood run cold. It was darkness, pure, absolute darkness, but it moved. It flowed like liquid shadow across the stars, and wherever it touched, light died. Suns went dark, planets crumbled, everything vanished into the void. We call it the silence, said. It comes from the space between galaxies. We do not know if it is alive or a machine or something else entirely. We only know what it does. It consumes. It erases. Every galaxy it has touched is now empty. The council members stared at the image in horror. Some covered their eyes. Others turned away. A few began to cry. Our probes detected it 200 years ago, explained. It was heading straight for the Milky Way. We calculated its speed and trajectory. It will arrive in approximately 6 months. 6 months, Ambassador whispered. We have only 6 months. No, you have longer than that, because we are going to stop it. Looked at the young human commander. He saw no fear in those eyes, only determination, only purpose. How? Asked. How can anyone stop something like that? We do not know if we can, but we are going to try. Our fleet is the only force large enough to have any chance. We built it for this moment. We trained for this moment. Our entire species has sacrificed everything for this moment. Leaned closer to the screen. I am not asking for your forgiveness. I am not asking for your help. I am only asking that you protect Earth while we are gone. 8 billion of our people are hiding in underground cities. They are defenseless. If we fail, they will need time to evacuate. Please, give them that chance. The transmission ended. The screen went dark. Chancellor sat in silence for a long time. Around him, the council members talked in hushed voices. The fear in the room was thick enough to taste. Finally spoke. His voice had lost its anger. Now it held something else, something like shame. They knew all along, and they still smiled at us. They still traded with us. They still called us friends. They did more than that, said quietly. They protected us. They built a fleet to save us, and we never even said thank you. Made his decision. He stood up and faced the council. We will send ships to protect Earth. We will guard their people while their warriors fight for our survival. It is the least we can do. No one argued. No one complained. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council agreed on something immediately. Far away, at the edge of the galaxy, 500,000 human ships flew toward the darkness. They carried the hopes of 1 trillion beings on their shoulders, beings who had just learned a terrible truth. The humans were not the primitive species everyone believed. They were the guardians, the protectors, the shield between the galaxy and the void. And now they were going to prove it. The journey to the edge of the galaxy took 3 weeks, 3 weeks of jumping through space, 3 weeks of watching stars grow fewer and dimmer, 3 weeks of moving toward the end of everything known. Commander stood at the bridge window of the eternal dawn. Ahead of him there was nothing, just darkness, empty space stretching forever. Behind him, the spiral arm of the Milky Way glowed with the light of 100 billion stars, stars that would go dark if he failed. "We are approaching the target zone," reported. "Long-range sensors are detecting unusual readings ahead." "Show me." The main screen displayed a sensor map. Most of it was empty, but at the very edge there was something. A patch of space where the sensors returned nothing, not emptiness, nothing, as if reality itself stopped at that point. "That is it," said quietly, "the silence. It is bigger than our estimates predicted." His voice trembled slightly. "Current calculations suggest it is approximately the size of a small galaxy, and it is moving toward us at a speed of about 12 light-years per day." 12 light-years per day. Did the math in his head. At that speed, the silence would reach the outer colonies in 4 months. It would reach Earth in 6. The Galactic Council had been right to panic. "Open a channel to all ships." "Channel open, Commander." Took a deep breath. 500,000 ships waited for his words. Millions of soldiers ready to follow his orders. He had never felt so heavy in his life. "This is Commander. We have arrived at our destination. The enemy is ahead of us. In a few hours, we will begin the greatest battle in human history. I will not lie to you. Our chances are not good. We are facing something we do not fully understand. Something that has destroyed countless civilizations before us." He paused. Outside the window, the darkness seemed to pulse, like a heartbeat, like a living thing waiting to devour them. "But I believe in us. I believe in human courage. I believe in human strength. Our ancestors crossed oceans in wooden boats. They climbed mountains that touched the sky. They walked on the moon with nothing but faith and determination. Now we will face the darkness itself, and we will not run." His voice grew stronger. "Today we fight for everyone we love, our families in the underground cities, our friends who stayed behind, the children who will grow up in a galaxy we saved. Every alien species that doubted us, laughed at us, or us will know the truth. Humans are not weak. Humans are not primitive. Humans are the light that holds back the darkness." He raised his fist. "All ships prepare for battle. We advance in 1 hour." The channel closed, turned to find his sister's face on a side screen, looked tired but determined. "Good speech," she said. "Did you mean it?" "Every word." "Good, because the scientists have finished their analysis of the silence. I am sending you the report now." Read the report in silence. His face grew more serious with each line. The silence was not a natural phenomenon. It was artificial. Something had created it, something intelligent. "They think it is a weapon," said. "A weapon from a civilization so old that even the oldest alien species in our galaxy have no records of it. They built this thing to erase other civilizations. Maybe to protect themselves. Maybe because they were afraid of competition, or maybe just because they could." "Does the weapon have a weakness?" "Possibly. The scientists found energy patterns at the center of the silence. Something is powering it. If we can reach that center and destroy the power source, the whole thing might collapse." Looked at the sensor map again. The center of the silence was deep inside the darkness. Getting there would require flying through the thing that erased everything it touched. "How do we survive long enough to reach the center?" "The engineers have an idea. Our ships have shields designed to reflect energy attacks. If we modify them to emit a constant frequency, We might be able to create a bubble of protection around the fleet. It would not last long, maybe an hour, but that might be enough. An hour, 1 hour to fly through the end of all things and destroy its heart. It seemed impossible, but impossible was what humans did best. Begin the modifications, ordered. All ships, we move in 1 hour. The next 60 minutes passed too quickly. Engineers worked frantically to modify shields. Pilots ran final checks on their fighters. Soldiers wrote letters to families they might never see again. Some prayed. Some cried. Some simply sat in silence, thinking about what they were about to do. Used the time to record a message. Not for his family, not for the Galactic Council. This message was for the future, in case they failed, in case the silence consumed them along with everything else. My name is of Earth. I am the commander of the human defense fleet. If you are watching this, then we have failed. The silence has taken us, and it is probably coming for you too. He looked directly at the camera. But I want you to know what we tried. We were a young species. We had been part of the galactic community for only 2 centuries. But when we learned about the threat, we did not run. We did not hide. We built a fleet and we fought, not just for ourselves, for everyone. His voice cracked slightly. The galaxy never knew what we did for them. They called us primitive. They thought we were weak. Maybe they were right about some things, but we were brave. We stood between the darkness and the light, and if we lost, it was not because we did not try hard enough. He ended the recording and sent it to a probe programmed to fly back toward Earth if the fleet was destroyed. Commander's voice interrupted his thoughts. All ships report ready. The shield modifications are complete. The fleet is waiting for your order. Stood up, he walked to the window and looked at the darkness ahead. Somewhere in that void was the heart of the silence, the power source that kept it alive, the thing he had to destroy. All ships, this is Commander, form up on my position. We are going in. 500,000 ships activated their modified shields. Blue light surrounded each vessel, creating a protective barrier that pushed against the darkness. The fleet began to move forward into the nothing. The first ships entered the silence and disappeared from sensors. Held his breath. If the shields failed, they would all die in seconds. There would be no pain, no warning, just existence ending. But the shields held. Reports came in from the forward ships. They were alive. They were moving. The protection was working. All ships increase speed. We have 1 hour, make it count. The human defense fleet flew into the heart of darkness. Behind them, the stars of the Milky Way grew smaller and dimmer. Ahead of them, nothing existed except the thing they had come to kill. Watch the timer on his screen. 59 minutes, 58, 57. The battle for the galaxy had begun. The clock showed 40 minutes remaining when they saw it. In the center of the silence, surrounded by endless darkness, there was light. A massive structure floated in the void. It looked like a star trapped in a cage of metal and energy. Beams of power radiated from it in all directions, feeding the darkness that surrounded them. That is it, whispered, the heart of the silence. Sensors confirm, reported. The structure is generating the energy field that sustains the entity. If we destroy it, the silence should collapse. Should. The scientists give it a 70% chance of working, Commander. 70%. Not great odds, but better than nothing. Opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, we have found our target. Fighter squadrons form attack groups. Cruisers provide cover fire. Carriers prepare to launch all remaining fighters. We hit that thing with everything we have. The fleet reorganized in seconds. Thousands of fighters launched from carrier bays. Cruisers moved into defensive positions. Every weapon system powered up and locked onto the target. But the silence was not going to let them attack without a fight. From the darkness around the structure, shapes began to emerge. They looked like nightmares given form. Dark creatures made of shadow and energy. They moved without sound, without breath. hundreds of them at first, then thousands, then more than anyone could count. "Defensive ships," shouted over the communication channel. "They are defending the core." "All ships engage," commanded. "Fighters take the creatures. Heavy ships focus on the structure." The battle began. Laser fire lit up the darkness. Missiles screamed toward the shadow creatures. Explosions bloomed in the void. Human pilots flew their fighters with skill and courage, dodging attacks and returning fire. Many died in the first minutes. Their ships simply vanished, consumed by the darkness. But more kept coming. Wave after wave of human fighters threw themselves at the enemy. For every one that fell, 3 more took its place. The shadow creatures were strong, but they were not prepared for human determination. "Commander," shouted, "shield power dropping. We have 30 minutes left." "Then we need to end this fast. Signal the sunrise. Tell to lead the assault on the structure." Across the battlefield, received the order. She gripped the controls of her fighter and looked at the massive structure ahead. It was the size of a planet. Getting close enough to damage it would be suicide. But suicide was the only option left. "Eastern Division on me," she said calmly. "We are going to fly straight down the throat of that thing and blow it apart from the inside." 200 fighters formed up behind her, the best pilots in the fleet, the bravest souls humanity had ever produced. "For Earth," said, "for everyone." She pushed her throttle forward and flew toward the structure. The shadow creatures swarmed to intercept them, dodged and weaved, her fighter dancing through a storm of darkness. Pilots fell around her, ships exploded or simply vanished, but she kept flying. She had to reach the core. A gap appeared in the structure's surface, a massive opening that led to the power source inside. Aimed for it. "Eastern Division, follow me in, all missiles ready." She entered the structure. Inside, the light was blinding. The energy core pulsed like a living heart, filling the space with heat and radiation. Her shields began to fail immediately. "All fighters, fire everything." Missiles launched. Lasers fired. Every weapon on every surviving fighter released at once, aimed at the core. The explosions were beautiful, white fire consuming golden light. The core cracked. Energy spilled out in all directions. The structure began to tear itself apart. "All ships retreat," screamed into her communication device. "Get out now." She tried to turn her fighter around, but there was no time. The core exploded. A wave of energy swept through the structure, closed her eyes. Outside, watched the structure collapse. The massive cage of metal and energy crumbled into nothing. The darkness around it began to fade. Stars became visible again. The silence was dying. He called into his communication device. "Respond." Static, then nothing. The remaining ships fled the dying silence. Behind them, the darkness continued to collapse. It took hours, then days. Finally, after a week, the last traces of the silence faded into nothing. The void between galaxies was just empty space again. The human defense fleet had won, but at a terrible cost. Of the 500,000 ships that had entered the silence, only 80,000 survived. The rest were gone, consumed by darkness or destroyed in battle. Among the dead was Commander and most of her division. Stood alone on the bridge of the eternal dawn. He had not slept in days. He had not eaten. He simply stood at the window, staring at the stars they had saved. "Commander," spoke softly, "we are receiving a signal from the Eastern Division debris field. It is very weak." "Did not move, play it." The speaker crackled. Through the static a voice emerged, weak and tired but alive. "This is, my ship is badly damaged. Life support failing. If anyone can hear this, I could really use a rescue." Collapsed into his chair, tears ran down his face. She was alive. Somehow, impossibly, his sister had survived. "All search teams, converge on the signal coordinates immediately. Move." They found her 3 hours later. Her fighter was barely more than scrap metal, but inside sat in her pilot's seat, laughing despite her injuries. "Took you long enough, brother," she said as the rescue team pulled her from the wreckage. The journey home took another 3 weeks. When the fleet finally reached the Milky Way, they found something unexpected. Thousands of alien ships waiting for them, not to fight, to welcome them home. Chancellor himself broadcast a message to the fleet. "Heroes of Earth, the Galactic Council has watched your battle from afar. We saw your courage. We saw your sacrifice. We can never repay what you have done for us. But we can start by saying what we should have said long ago. Thank you for everything." The alien ships formed an honor guard around the human fleet. They escorted them all the way back to Earth. Along the way, every inhabited planet they passed lit up their cities in celebration. Fireworks, lights, music. The entire galaxy was thanking humanity. Did not join the celebrations. He sat with his sister in the medical bay, holding her hand while doctors treated her wounds. "We did it," whispered. "We actually did it." "You did it, you and your pilots I just watched." Smiled weakly. "You gave a good speech though, that counts for something." They laughed together. It felt good to laugh. It felt like being human again. On Earth, the underground cities opened their doors. 8 billion people emerged into sunlight they had not seen in months. They looked up at the sky and saw the returning fleet. They cheered. They cried. They hugged each other and thanked every star they could see. Was the one who sent the message that told the galaxy everything was safe. Just 2 words, broadcast across every channel in every language. Threat eliminated. Somewhere in the halls of the Galactic Council, Chancellor read those words and wept, not from sadness, from gratitude, from the knowledge that a species everyone had underestimated had just saved the universe. The humans had vanished in a single night. Then they had launched 500,000 ships. Then they had made the galaxy panic. And then they had done the impossible. They had held back the darkness. Not for glory, not for power, not for thanks. Just because it was the right thing to do.